Well, good morning, everyone. This is John Craig, and we welcome you to this edition of Let Us Reason Together. And we have this live show going on this morning. It is going to be full of all sorts of different things. So I'm really looking forward to it. And with that, we always have our headlines. Yeah, we always have our shower thoughts, but we've got a special guest that I'm going to introduce here in just a minute. And to join us with the Torah portion today. And then also another special guest that he promised that he would do something yesterday. I'm going to ask him if it actually took place. All right. So, yeah, now that I've got you sitting on the edge of your seat, wondering what we're talking about. And then, of course, don't forget part 2 of Let Us Reason Together, where we're going to be talking about the uncensored news. Yeah, all different things that are taking place that we can't talk about here on this side. So stay with it. Stay with us during this program today. Yes, I'm John Craig, second. So I am this Let Us Reason Together's host. Based on Isaiah 1:18, come now and let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are as scarlet, they'll be as white as snow. Though they are red like crimson, they will be like wool. This is where we sit down, reason out current events, cultural shifts. And of course, this week's Torah portion, we can either push back or push through. Nevertheless, if iron does not sharpen iron, sparks will never fly, let alone ever get a fire going. So why not have a little heat and a good midrash to cause our hearts to be softened, to be moldable enough to be transformed in the way that the Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh, wants us to be, and maybe have a little fun along the way. So, good morning, good morning, good morning. I want to, before I introduce my guest, I've got to bring to you today's verse of the day, Matthew 21:14. It's over in the Brit Hadashah portion of this week's Torah portion. And you're going to think, why this verse? Well, I think this is extremely powerful, yet it's embedded in the middle of it. And this is what it says. And blind and lame came to him, talking about Yeshua, in the temple, and he healed them. Wow. Just think about the implications of that verse. So, well, first of all, I want to bring on Mr. Rabbi Daryl Weinberg. Good morning, Daryl. How are you?
Good morning and Chag Sameach, John. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you, and it's good to be part. It's been such a long time since we've had a Let Us Reason together, and have missed those days. And I'm glad that you're able to fill in with us today and to be part of this streamcast.
Amen. It's good to be here.
Also, we've got Johnny Chops. Yeah, Johnny Chops. Good morning, good morning, good morning, Johnny Chops, aka the master of Lamb Network.tv.
What's up, home kids?
Also filling in today. So I am so glad that you two are able to join us. And did everything work out for you okay yesterday, Mark?
Sorry, I was sitting on the edge of my seat. You told us at the beginning to sit on the edge of our seat, so
yeah. Okay.
I almost fell off there. So
you made it.
Did everything go well?
You made a promise yesterday in the email.
What's that?
You made a promise in the email yesterday.
Well, I don't know. I make promises all the time. Ask Daryl.
Well, you just said that you would clean up yesterday.
That don't mean they're going to come through, just because I make promises. But I don't know. I didn't do anything all day yesterday but take a shower.
That's the promise right there. You said that you'd clean up for us so that we can have you on the show.
I fulfill all my promises. Just ask Daryl. Right, Daryl? Daryl?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Daryl's animal looks more like a raccoon than you guys' animal.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a raccoon. That's
that thing is I think mostly raccoon.
look at that tail. By the way, I understand that you do not ever want to eat raccoon.
Really? I
Yeah.
don't know. Let's ask the rabbi. Can we eat raccoon there, Rabbi?
Well, apparently the new official nickname for them are trash pandas, so no.
I actually heard someone make a comment about eating raccoon. They said it is the absolutely worst tasting meat.
Well,
And I'm like, who would
Go
try
figure.
it?
go figure.
They're a rodent.
And a really nasty rodent of all different things. You know, of course, they're in that conversation. They were talking about possum and all of that
Oh, Southern delicacy there, huh?
Southern delicacy. Yeah.
And Daryl's saying, let's see, I am really happy I live in the north.
I want to let you know I've never eaten possum or raccoon. Not clean, unclean.
I was speaking at a Chinese church one time, and the pastor, who was Chinese, he says to me, "Do you know how you know that Adam and Eve weren't Chinese?" I said, "No." He says they would have eaten the serpent.
Oh,
I like it. Well, I can't make the claim to fame that I have not eaten any of those things you've talking about. I actually grew up 30 miles from the catfish capital of the world. So, I didn't become messianic until a lot later. So, anyway, I can't make those claims. Sorry.
well,
No, I'm not sorry.
You know, I will have to say this. Sandy and I do not know anybody that has ever eaten possum, even though we live in the South.
How do you know you don't know anybody? Have you asked every person you've ever come in contact with?
They're not aware
eaten
of
possum?
anybody.
Thank you, Daryl.
I'm sorry, I missed. What did you say?
They're not aware of anybody that they know. that
Let's
has
put
eaten
it
possum.
that way. Thank you
All
very
right.
much.
That's right.
Okay, we'll just leave it at that. What do you say, Gary?
Okay.
Where's Eddie and Tammy today?
It's safer that way. Hey, so Eddie and Tammy, yeah, they've got a big old hurricane heading that direction. And so they are doing what they need to do to prep and to prepare and to hunker down to endure this storm because they don't know. I mean, right now, it says it looks like the eye of it's going to be going over Tampa. I think that's the last I had heard. Tampa, Florida. They're in the panhandle of Florida or in kind of in that northwestern part of Florida. But you don't know. I mean, this thing could make a shift. It could go further east and they would be completely, out of the risk, or it could make a left-hand turn and come up the coast of Florida and come right through the area where they're at. So they are getting ready and preparing. So we're going to miss them today. But, and of course, y'all, we didn't have the nice special intro like we have for Eddie and Tammy and for Sandy. The Pink Panther for Sandy and the posse.
Well, as soon as Sandy comes in, we'll make sure she gets one.
Well, Sandy is not joining us today.
No, nobody agreed to that today.
She is making claims that she's so busy. No, I'm kidding. She is actually really busy leading up to Sukkot. So,
I've heard that excuse from her before.
And she's waiting on a phone call regarding our granddaughter, Amariah, has a hairline fracture in her tibia, in her shin bone. So the kids were all loaded up on the swing, and the swing fell. As they stopped the swing, then the swing fell, and her little leg got caught up underneath it with all the weight of the kids on it and fractured it yesterday. Yeah, it was during our Yom Teruah celebration, and my heart hurts for her. And a couple other bumps and bruises with some others that other of the kids, they just had loaded it too much, and they shouldn't have put so many kids on it. That while we were dancing and we were worshiping, the kids were in the background doing that. So anyway, all right. Well, we were having a good time. Well, hey, are y'all ready for this next part? Because I've already brought it up. We've got headlines that we're not going to hear anywhere else around the world except here on the Lamb Network on this edition of Let Us Reason Together. Y'all ready for this?
Are we ever ready?
No, not always. All right, so here we come. Okay, so there we go. Headlines from around the world. We're not going to hear anywhere else. So that everybody can see that I'm not just making this up. Ooh, I'm in the light. Ooh, this is no. Okay, here we go. All right.
Blinded by the light.
What was that, Daryl?
I said blinded by the light.
Blinded by the light. Yeah,
Like
last week it was all on Sandi. So this week I get it. As the sun continues to shift and make its trek toward the south. But now, so here we go. Yeah, taking off for the first headline from around the world. Not going to hear anywhere else. Thief takes off with Lucky Charms cereal. This is from Bartlett. A Bartlett woman in the 500 block of Deer Park reported recently that her box of Lucky Charms cereal was stolen, according to August 27 police reports.
Wow.
How do you get through the day after that?
Oh,
that's right.
This must have been traumatic that she actually called the police.
That's very unlucky.
I do a good comment.
Yeah, right. There's so. I bet you she wasn't so charming that day.
Gosh, and they just keep on rolling out there. All right.
Right. Okay, got another headline for you guys, and just so that we got to lighten it up. Or I got to lighten up. We got people that actually watch this broadcast or the rebroadcast that look forward to this part of Let Us Reason Together. Let's go to the next headline. So this is more of a police blogger. This is a man who lives in Fairfield filed a complaint with police on Sunday about someone ringing his doorbell and leaving a photocopy of buttocks on his front stoop. The complainant, Edgar Butts, told police the incident has happened several times in the last 2 weeks.
And yet he waited till this time to make a complaint.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah. I guess after a repeat. Well, it's just a little cheeky comment. Let's move right along here.
There's corrections down at the bottom. So
yeah, it's out of sight there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay. Okay.
Okay. All right. How about this next one? This Swedish guy. Swedish guy impregnates 4 women during bachelor party. 9 months later, the local newborn this week page. And so here we have item number 1 and who he is, and first lady, second lady, or first kid, second kid, third kid. That's not him. How about this guy right there?
Quite the party.
Yeah. So I don't have any words for that. Yeah.
So all these
activities in Sweden.
So all these different people had babies 9 months later.
Well, all these women with the same father.
I guess I didn't catch that.
Yeah,
These
let me.
are
I'm
four
trying to.
different women and the same father from. Okay, well. Okay,
Yeah, and so they have these. I guess they have these birth announcements.
Okay, well. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh! It is the same guy.
It is the same guy. He's got a hat there, no hat, striped shirt, glasses, and no glasses. So
Well, that the top right one looks like a prison shirt. So maybe that should have been last. The first three, and then now he's in prison type thing. Maybe I don't know. That would be,
I don't know,
well.
Mark. It could just simply, rugby shirts. Remember rugby shirts back in the 80s? Everybody wore rugby shirts, the striped one. It's still fashionable in Sweden.
Okay. All right. Well.
All right. Okay. So,
yeah.
All right. I did this one particularly for you, Mark. This next one, just in remembrance.
Thank you.
In remembrance. So here we go. Yeah. Body odor can be controlled by bathing.
I have no idea what that has anything to do with me.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad that we are distanced right now. But you did bathe yesterday, so I'm glad. This is for your health. It's under your health section.
I took a shower yesterday.
Oh, it's close to the same thing.
Daryl,
do they bathe in Canada?
Yeah, who knows? I might take one today. Might take one tomorrow. I am retired, not like you young folks over there.
So tell me, Daryl, is it true in Canada?
Yeah, I think that's.
Daryl, he's speechless.
Temperatures don't go quite as high up north.
I know. What do you do?
They don't actually have to take showers or baths as often, I would say.
Well, yeah. Monthly, whether we need it or not. Sure.
do you have hot water in Canada?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
I had it with my coffee last night.
Okay.
Last night? You had coffee last night?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well.
Okay. All right. So moving right along. And this next one, I think it goes along with it. Personals. It's in the personal ads. Unusually attractive man, 33, seeks woman, must smell like strawberry air freshener.
All right. Well.
Okay. So, what does he smell like?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could.
Is there a stipulation there?
You could answer the ad and just say, "Hey, I bring my own strawberry air freshener with me." So, maybe she has a necklace with the strawberry air freshener hanging on it. One of those little strawberries. And kind of like the evergreen tree. Hey, maybe he wears in one of those evergreen tree air fresheners around his neck. You never know. But wait, I think we missed the actual story on the last one. Can we go back to the last one?
Sure.
We didn't actually even just get the humor out of this, but the actual headline, body odor can be controlled by bathing. So, we were talking about other things, but I mean, that's actually hilarious within itself. Not that you can read the article, but the fact that somebody thought that a headline such as this was going to be profitable to somebody so that they could do this. So, I get it now. Sorry, we were talking. So you can go on. It does bring up the question,
why in this community did they have to bring in an article like this?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly my point.
it does bear that question.
I mean, I'd like to. It looks like a woman there that wrote this, so maybe she has a strawberry air freshener that could be. Never mind.
Okay, and last but not least, yeah, this was okay. So it's in the headline section, but worth noting. So we have some type of couch, maybe that it is. Your price, $1,299, and it says relax. We guarantee the lowest price, $724 at other stores.
Oh yeah. Right.
So, yeah.
That must be a marketing graduate from a typical U.S. university now.
Good,
Economics major for sure.
Yeah.
Typical U.S.
Well, they do hand out hot chocolate and puppies to help cope. So
Biden's getting ready to hire them as his new economic advisor.
Anything to help, right? Okay.
Yes, indeed.
All right. Well, okay. So that's it for the headlines for today. We do have some shower thoughts. Those shower thoughts that make you go, Yeah.
Right.
Yes, shower thoughts that you're not going to hear anyplace else except here on the Lamb Network. And so why? Because someone has to dig out this stuff from the internet so people can know that it even exists, right?
Somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it. So here's our deep thought for the day. It's not a dog thought. It's a deep thought. Maybe dogs think about this. Who knows?
Sure,
but
yeah.
Deep thoughts that make you say, we think aliens would abduct us and conduct experiments on us because that's exactly what we would do if we discovered alien life.
That's exactly right. Oh my gosh. So right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's been proven by, the countless number of television shows that have found alien life forms and hidden them away so that the government wouldn't do, experiments on them. So yeah, that's been proven time and time and time and time again.
Yeah.
So, how interesting. Never thought of it like that. But.
Yep, that's right. Okay, here's the next one for you. Out of the millions of ways you can die, you've avoided all of them. Look at you go.
So far.
Yeah, so far.
So far.
So far, so good.
He's not over yet.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Well, now that we've entered into the feast days and we see the world like just going biblical on us.
Biblical.
Yeah, it seems like there's going to be lots of opportunities presenting itself as we see the book unfolding before us. All right, so moving right along, how about this next shower thought? These thoughts that come over your brain, over your head as the shower just falls all over you and it just awakens you, right? Okay. When it comes to browser data, do British people delete biscuits?
I don't know. I guess I don't get that one.
Yeah, like the cookies. Do you not delete your cookies?
No, I don't.
Yeah. So Daryl, you're closer to the crown than we are.
You think you're going to get him to admit that?
What say you, Daryl?
I can't delete my cookies because then I have to call up Mark to get the passcode again for
That's right. That's exactly right.
And then when I try to log into the email, it asks me for a verification code, and then we have to go through this whole song and dance and circus. So no, I don't clean up my cookies.
Don't you love it when there's a Microsoft update and it takes care of that for you?
Oh yeah.
Yep. Don't get me started on that
one. You basically get a message that says, "We're taking over your computer. You're screwed."
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah.
That's actually biblical, what you just said right there.
And now they have software that they lease to you. You can't even buy it anymore.
Nope.
And you have to lease it from them so that they can have more control over our ability to do work. Yep. All right, moving right along. How about this next one? Everything sounds about 4 times more powerful when the word industrial is in front of it. Industrial steel, industrial appliances, industrial power metal, industrial revolution, industrial accident, etc., etc., etc. That's kind of like in the 90s, everything was extreme.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because I have been playing with the fact with possibly changing the name of the LAM network to the Industrial LAM network. So the international, if you even put international on the front of things, it doesn't have to be international. You don't have to be anywhere but in the United States and in Canada. For instance, we have like Daryl, that is in Canada. So now we can say that we are international. See, there you go. So now I can add industrial to it and say the Industrial International LAM Network.
Bingo.
Wow.
That's so powerful.
I'm working on promos. I think that might just be one of my promos I'll work on. So thanks there, John.
What? See, out of the shower comes great thoughts. All right, how about this? This is last but not least, and Sandi would love this one. The saying, out of sight, out of mind, does not apply when you are in your room and catch glimpse of a spider and then lose it.
Yeah, buddy. With that one, that's
what can I say? All right, so there you go. There's the shower thoughts for today. And I was Sandi would have loved it yesterday. I was out there in our garden and going through the pumpkins and the pumpkins. Right. And I was pulling up leaves and I'm looking for squash bugs because squash bugs are still, well, they're not as active as they were, but I'm looking and I lifted up a leaf and in the midst of this bunch of some of these dried up leaves, guess what? It was that spider. There's these black spiders that have a red dot on their back. No squash bugs, but did find a spider. And then I turned and I looked and I moved and it was gone. So it's waiting for Sandi today when she gets out there to the garden.
Don't tell her. We'll let it be a surprise.
Somebody's in the background.
I knew she was there. I knew it. I just knew it. I heard the clanging around.
I heard everything.
She heard everything. She cannot miss one of our shows. I'm just saying. She's got to be there for us.
Boy, what we have to put up with just to have a Sandi Craig around, I'm telling
you. Hey, it's time. We've done burn this side of the clock. We got to get the other side of the clock in because this was what we've all been waiting for, and that is the Torah portion of the day. So here we go.
That's right.
HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah. HaTorah, HaTorah, Torah.
Well, the Torah portion today for this week is Vayelech, which means and he went. And it's a short portion. It's only one chapter. It's Deuteronomy 31. But this is where Moses is getting ready to sign off. And there are some really, really neat things that are in this one chapter here. The first thing that Moses is doing is he's telling Israel once again that this is the end. He says, I'm 120, I'm no longer able to go out or come in, and the Lord has told me you shall not cross this Jordan. So it is the Lord your God who's going to cross ahead of you, and he himself will destroy the nations. So Israel is with the prospect of actually losing their leader that they have known for the past 40 years. And that's going to be a profound change for them. For most of them, this is all they've known. As a matter of fact, the entire generation that had come out of Egypt, that was 20 years old and older, have already died off. So Moses is the only leader that they've known. Some of them may have remembered slavery, some of the, the ones who are a little bit more up there, but they were teenagers when they came out. But this is the only leader that they've known. And Moses is saying, that's it, I'm done. And he turns to Joshua and he says, you're going to lead them. So God's going to go ahead of you, but Joshua is going to go ahead of the children of Israel. So then it's God first, and then the Joshua, and then the people of Israel. And Moses has to turn to Joshua a couple of times. I can't remember exactly how many times in this chapter he says it, but he says to Joshua in verse 7, he says, he called Joshua and said to the side of Israel, be strong and courageous, for you will go with this people into the land the Lord has sworn to you. He says in verse 6 to the children of Israel, be strong and courageous. Do not be in dread or fear of them, for the Lord your God is the one who is going with you. He will not desert you or abandon you. Israel is about to do something that they have not, they haven't had to deal with before. And that is that they're going to be going on without the one who that they have known all this time. So he tells the children of Israel, be strong and courageous. Don't do what your forefathers did, your parents did 40 years ago, which cost you 40 years in the desert. And then he turns to Joshua and he says, be strong and courageous. So he says that to him a couple of times. And then what's really interesting is in Joshua chapter 1, the Lord himself has to say to Joshua about 3 or 4 times, be strong and courageous, don't be afraid. Why all this necessity for affirmation? There's a profound switch. There's a profound change that's going on. And these people are going into unknown territory. And so when we are about to embark on a new journey with the Lord, we need a lot of comfort. I see what's going on in the world today as being pretty scary for a lot of people, especially here in North America. You'd go to other parts of the world, like in Nigeria or in China. They understand persecution. They know what it's like to have to run for your lives. But in North America, I mean, the church has been dominant as part of culture for the most part since World War II. And maybe up until, I would say, the 90s, early 2000s. After 9/11, things really kind of changed. But we are going to experience a different kind of life. And the persecution and the tribulation that we were warned about in Scripture is coming on our doorstep. You're seeing things like the collapse of food supplies. There is violence in the streets everywhere in the United States. I mean, look at what's happening in New York. People are just randomly being stabbed or pushed onto subway tracks. There's no rhyme or reason. It's not something you can even prepare for because it's totally demonic. And God said that this was all going to happen as society degrades. But he says to those who follow him, be strong and courageous, do not fear, because the Lord your God is going ahead of you. The remnant, those who truly cling to the Lord during this time, are actually, I believe, going to flourish. But then Moses has to deal with something else. And then he says to the Levites who carry the ark, and he says, at the end of every 7 years at the time of the release of the debts at the Feast of Booths, so we have the Shemitah year, the sabbatical year, when all Israel comes before the Lord your God to the place which he will choose, you shall read this law before all Israel, so that they will hear. So what we see here is tying in of the Shemitah year, the deliverance from all debts. And we, by the way, last night we ended a Shemitah year. So the previous year was a sabbatical year. And then you come to the Feast of Sukkot, and every 7 years it says that they're to read the whole law. So when we look at what happened with Ezra and Nehemiah, it says they read the law. The deliverance of debt is tied in with the law and the commandments. And so we got people who are asking God for deliverance, but they're missing something. And God is reminding the people at this time that they need to remember his commandments if they're going to continue to prosper. Because for a lot of people, the reason why they get into debt and they get into bondage in other areas is because they don't keep the commandments and they don't have God's protection. So this is a reminder to them that grace is coming through the deliverance, but it is also tied in with the commandments. And then, of course, we have here Song of Moses, which God is predicting. They're they're going to fall away. Behold, the time for you to die is near. Call Joshua and present yourself at the tent of meeting, and I will commission him. So Moses and Joshua went with themselves and presented them at the tent of meeting. And the Lord appeared in the tent of a pillar and a cloud. And he said, behold, you are about to lie down with your father and your fathers, and this people will arise and play the harlot, the prostitute, with the foreign gods, the land of the midst of which they are going. They will abandon me and break my covenant which I made with them. So God is telling Moses to tell Israel, this is what's going to happen. They're going to fall away. And I can't even begin to imagine what the heart of God must be like, knowing what it is that we're going to do, that we're going to betray him, and that he's going to have to do some things that he doesn't want to do. He says, my anger will be kindled against them. And I just finished reading Lamentations this morning, getting into Ezekiel in my morning devotions. And those prophetic books, starting with Jeremiah, it's all about Israel's rebellion against God. He says to Ezekiel that these people are stiff-necked, they're stubborn and obstinate. And Isaiah 65:2 says that all day long I have stretched out my hands to a disobedient people. Paul quotes that in Romans chapter 10. The heart of God must break when he knows that he's done everything he possibly can in order to give people the right way. He says in Deuteronomy 30 from last week's Parsha, I put before you life and blessing, death and curse. He says, choose life. And yet now in the very next chapter with Moses' speech, he says they're going to choose death. and I'm going to have to unleash my wrath upon them. And so Moses then writes his song. And what's interesting is the book of Revelation, it talks about Yeshua and the song of Moses being tied in together. They're intertwined because Moses is prophesying about the coming of the Messiah and the need for the Messiah because of mankind's rebellion. All of this is preparation for the Messiah coming. So as we celebrate Yom Teruah, Feast of Trumpets, we have now entered into the 10 days of awe between trumpets and Yom Kippur. And we're supposed to search our hearts. Jewish people will say, may our names be written in the book of life one more year. Our names are inscribed in the book of life. They can't be removed unless we choose to walk away from God. But it is a time for introspection, is a time to cleanse our hearts, because throughout the year, there are areas where we've walked away and we have grieved the heart of God. And so I encourage everybody at this time, see what the Lord is saying to you about this. Where is it in our hearts that we have gone after other gods? And it could be anything that we have chased after that is not of him. Perhaps it is money, perhaps it is fame, perhaps it is love. Could be sex, drugs, and rock and roll, I don't know. But whatever it is, there are things that we have put in our heart as altars, and it is time to tear those things down before God has to judge us, because Yom Kippur is coming, and that is a time of judgment on the wicked.
You're muted, John.
Okay, sorry about that. Very good, Daryl. That's what I was saying. Lots of things give pause for thought, especially with the things and the events that are going on right now all around us. I mean, you mentioned the violence. You mentioned the food supply issue. In fact, what happened over in France this weekend, where their major food market distribution area in Paris, France, caught fire. And it's just another food distribution place, like all these ones have been going across North America. And then also, this is a headline this morning. It's over on the HalTurnerRadioShow.com. The British pound has dropped like a rock this morning. It is now $1.03. $1.03. In other words, $1.03 to the British pound. It used to be a point in time. It was about $2.50 to the British pound, and then the euro crashed. And so all of these main currencies are all in par with each other as a 1-to-1 value. Isn't that interesting as we go into the thread of the digital currency, putting everybody on the same level?
Canadian dollar and the American dollar aren't anywhere close to each other.
I haven't checked the Canadian dollar recently.
About 75 cents, and I was quite thankful for the donations that I got in yesterday in U.S. funds.
Wow. So anyway, Mark, what are your thoughts there on the Torah portion?
Well, it's always interesting to say, I think it's interesting. All of it's interesting. Daryl reads out of chapter 30 of Deuteronomy and talking about, today I'm presenting you in one hand good, in the other hand evil. Whereas you mentioned in the chapter afterwards, Moshe mentions that, people are choosing different things. Well, how about the chapter right before? I think, as a matter of fact, the chapter right before has probably the most marked page in my Bible. The
Mine
most
too.
Highlighted. Is it really?
Yeah,
the
it
most
is.
highlighted, the most written in than probably any other page in my Bible. And in Deuteronomy 29, just to follow up with what Daryl says, so let their hold up just a second, change my glasses here. So let there not be among you a man, woman, family, or tribe whose heart turns away today from Adonai, our God, to go and serve the gods of those nations. Let there not be among you a root bearing such bitter poison and wormwood. If there is such a person, when he hears the words of this curse, he will bless himself secretly, saying to himself, I will be all right, even though I will stubbornly keep doing whatever I feel like doing, so that although dry, sinful, will be added to the water, the righteous, but Adonai will not forgive him. Rather, the anger and jealousy of Adonai will blaze up against that person. Every curse written in this book will be upon him. Adonai will blot out his name from under heaven. Adonai will single him out from the tribes of Israel to experience what is bad in all the curses of the covenant written in this book of the Torah, which to me is so interesting. I wonder if most Christian Bibles have just kind of found a way to redact that. I love the word redact, especially when talking about the Bible and what people believe and what they have in their Bibles, because I wonder how many Bibles they've gone in and redacted that, because in fact our names are written in the book of life. Hey, has nobody really ever read this? Because I think there's some options here of how that's interpreted and how it all works out. But along with what you're talking about, Daryl, and what is coming up and getting ready for Yom Kippur, maybe this is the part of this whole dialogue here that needs to be more bolded out than redacted. And so I don't know, that's where I think about it. And quite honestly, like I say, this is probably the most marked up page in my Bible, and I think it's probably the one that comes to my mind more often than most others, even though I'm very positive. I'm very try to be uplifting in my own life and think positive about everything and move on. I have to keep in mind when I'm living out my day-to-day life that I need to make sure this stays prevalent also, let's just put along with. And so there has to be a balance. And I think this, along with Deuteronomy 30, where, Daryl was talking about, is presenting to you life and death, choose life, that all has to be there in one accord. So for instance, in this one page in my Bible is the balance. So you have this page and then the other page. That's your balance in your life, and how you keep, or how I keep anyway, I keep that going right. So there you go. That's my response.
I think it's interesting here as well. And Daryl, you brought this up at the beginning, that about how many times that Yah says to Joshua, be strong and courageous. And I'm thinking about this. Well, Joshua has been beside Moses this entire time. And I don't know how old Joshua was when they left Egypt, but given maybe 20 or so, and you add 40.
He was about 40.
Huh?
He was about 40.
He was about 40. So now we got 40 more years. Now he's 80 years old, and he's still given this command to be strong and courageous. And here's a guy that went in with Caleb into the land of the giants and said, we can do this thing.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why Joshua gets to lead the nation into the promised land. And yet he's after all this time, he's seen what's happened with Moses. He's seen how Moses had been face to face with Yah. I mean, he's been by his side the entire time. And yet, so he knows the power of God. He knows the truth and the promises that the Father has given him. And now he's getting ready to enter in. And why does he need that encouragement to say, be strong and courageous? I mean, he's been strong and courageous. And yet, what is inside of him where he has this maturity now, and yet still is faced with this dilemma?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, what do y'all think about that? I mean, I think I'm almost 60. I mean, it's coming up here in the next year. and I think about, what emotions I have and the feelings I have. And I'm just thinking about, here's this guy who's had this amazing relationship.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm with you. Go ahead.
No, and I was just thinking, Joshua, I think it was over in the book of Exodus when they had the tent that was outside the camp. Mm-hmm. When people would come out to Moses outside the camp, and then Moses would inquire of Yah, and he'd spend the day there and then go back in. But Joshua remained at that. I mean, so what type of, if you want to use this term, I know it's very limited in our English language, this residual presence of Yah that he soaked himself in constantly. And yet, what does that say about our own human frailty when we're faced with maybe these major events that are set before us?
Well, and I think part of that was after having watched what Moses went through all these years with Israel, and what Moses is talking about, this stubbornness, the obstinacy. And anybody who's been in ministry for any amount of time understands that whole problem. Because, as spiritual leaders, we look into people and we can see exactly what's going on. We know what they need. And what I have found is the vast majority of people don't want to receive what it is they actually need.
That's right.
And very much like God, what they're going to do. Where this is going to lead. We have one situation here where we had this lady who came to us last year who claimed she was Messianic and everything else. And what we ended up having to deal with, I mean, she was battling cancer. She was in a marriage that was just I can't even begin to describe. The guy had a demon. Okay. And we had to deal with this. And so we helped kind of get her settled and everything else. And once the crisis was over, she pulled away from us. And she started to go back to the very thing that she had been rescued out of, that God had used us to take care of her. Her cancer was getting better. And as soon as she pulled away and came out from under our covering and our prayers and everything else, cancer came back, and she's now getting ready to die.
Yeah.
And we could see it coming, and we knew when we tried to warn her, we tried to help her, and she resisted everything that we tried to tell her. It was a fight every step of the way. And finally, I just said to Milena, I said, that's it. I said, we're done. I don't want to deal with this anymore. She's going to do what she's going to do. And you deal with this. And so I'm sure that after Joshua got to see what Moses had to go through for 40 years in the desert, now he is going to be the one to take over. And he might even be thinking, what are these people going to do to me? I don't think it was so much the giants in the land that they were worried about. He was all ready to go 40 years ago. It's it's not the wolves that are the problem. It's the sheep.
That's right. Yeah. That's a fact. That right there is a fact. I think every one of us have experienced that. I know John will tell you exactly the same thing. We've all experienced.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you on that, because I was thinking that very same thing. I was thinking it wasn't so much that they're going to have all these battles in front of them. It's these people that are going with them.
Ministry would be great if it wasn't for people.
Yeah, right. As you were talking too, there's one of the things I talked about. I talked about yesterday in Shabbat, and I've mentioned it before. When people are caught off guard, people are not prepared. They're not ready for the events that are taking place. People panic,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't matter if one's a believer or not a believer. If one is not prepared, then those base instincts kick in. Mm-hmm. So all of this religious air that people have, all of these behaviors that they're always have their, their best face on when they come together in the congregation.
Yeah.
When tragedy comes, then the base instincts come out. And that's why in Israel, when we saw when Nebuchadnezzar had surrounded Jerusalem, they would eat their own babies. And the mothers would, hide that from the husbands and save the afterbirth. I mean, just nasty, nasty stuff. But what makes us any different from that? And I just think about how all of these elements are all falling together at the same time.
Mm.
My
Wow.
brother has a bumper sticker that says, "God save me from your people."
Yeah.
We need to
Tell
go.
them I want one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, it's time. We got a special promo that we want to show you all here. And Mark, do you want to bring that up?
Yeah. Daryl is doing a Rosh Hashanah event special at noon Eastern, and then the O'Hares are doing one at 1. So here's a promo.
בשנה הבאה נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות. בשנה הבאה נשב על המרפסת ונספור ציפורים נודדות. ילדים בחופשה ישחקו תופסת בין הבית לבין השדות.
Very cool. All right. So that's coming up shortly. We're going to see you guys on the other side. Stay tuned here on the lambnetwork.tv, where we've got the uncensored portion of today's Let Us Reason Together. We'll see you on the other side.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.